So you have no home, no phone. You get on a bus in Tampa with $212, a toothbrush, and a French war medal, and travel over 500 miles to read up on a dead blues musician. That sum up your past 24 hours.
No. I also went to a diner, ordered peach pie, and never got to eat it because I was arrested for murder.
The book was, to some extent, designed to introduce the reader, obviously, to the character, but also to show Reacher, in a way, learning how to live outside of the army. The action takes place very shortly after he's mustered out. He's been in the military all his life as a military brat and then a military officer. And at the age of 36, suddenly he's dumped out into the civilian world and he's got no idea how it works, how to live in it. And so it's a learning process for him. And I felt that the first book was ideal for the first season because the reader and the viewer is in the same position there. They're getting used to the character, they're seeing how he feels, how he thinks, how he adapts. And so I think it was the obvious one to go with.
Jack Reacher, to me, is honestly the most compelling character that I've ever read in any fiction. Lee has drawn on classic characteristics and tropes of a main action character. As we say, the samurai, the lone Ronin, the cowboy wandering the West, coming into town, finding a wrong, righting it with sheer will and conviction to do the right thing all the time. And I also found the way that Lee writes the character, the way he brings you into Reacher's mind. You are allowed access to his sort of tactical brilliance to be an awesomely compelling combination. You know, here's a tactical strategist you can play along with while you read a novel and try to figure out the clues as Reacher is, and then you're enjoying the sheer wonderful, brutal physicality of Reacher taking matters into his own hands when he has to.
Don't you want a home base or something?
Had a home base my whole life. Grew up in the military, worked in the military. Always told where to go, when to be there. Now I see my country on my own terms. He's an interesting guy. I mean, he's got a fascinating mind. We like the way he's always one step ahead of us. The mystery of what he's trying to solve is a lot of fun to try and see if we can figure it out with him. And then when the fights come, we get to sit and enjoy those. And you know, there's action every episode.
There's a subtle sarcasm in Lee, and there's a subtle sarcasm in his writing. Reacher would be pretty uninteresting if he didn't have a personality. It's wonderful to have a computer tactical mind, but how you communicate and how you associate yourself with the world has to be, you know, compelling and interesting and a fun read and fun to see on screen. And Reacher does that with sort of a knowing wink and a sarcasm at times. He doesn't suffer fools. He also doesn't suffer bad people. That doesn't mean fools and bad people always deserve a fist. So sometimes they deserve his sharp tongue, and it's a delight when Reacher does them.
You're always so confident in your theories.
As confident as I am that you went to Harvard, you recently divorced, and you quit smoking in the last 6 months.
How'd you come up with that?
My friend back there, Baker, he called you a beantown bitch, and from all appearances, you're well-educated, but you took a job in the middle of nowhere with people that look nothing like you.
Killing Floor, to be frank with you, was a rather quick choice. There was no real debate about it because of Joe, because of his brother. Throughout the rest of the novels, there isn't a lot of personal or familial involvement for Reacher. But as you've seen in the show, Reacher finds out at the end of the first episode that the murder that he's been arrested for and cleared for was his brother. Killing Floor gave us an ability to get behind Reacher's emotion in a way that other novels don't give you sort of that immediate access. Second, the flashbacks. We knew that for the non-Reacher initiated, we wanted to give a history of Jack, how he grew up, what his family dynamic was. So we're able to now frame those through his relationship with his brother Joe.
The novels themselves give a glimpse here and there of Reacher's formative years because as a novel writer, I didn't want to be, writing multi-generational sagas. But at the same time, obviously, you've got to root the character somewhere. You've got to show some kind of emotional basis for how he's acting. So what I do in the novels is it's random and it's rather brief, but there are telling flashbacks and stories from his childhood that illustrate something about him.
You don't have to do this. It's my fight. It's never just your fight. You know, Mom was right. Trouble does kind of seem to find you.
It's a very distinctive lifestyle for those kids because they're not in any one place very long. They're always the perpetual new guy. They're always learning the ropes in a new place. They're always challenged by the people that have got there just before. And so we get a sort of naked view of Reacher's personality, very unvarnished and very on the surface.
That'll do.
The great thing about the Bentley, which was a wonderful element of the novel, which we've lifted directly on screen, is its power and its terrific engineering matches that of Jack Reacher. In fact, Jack Reacher behind the wheel of a Bentley is almost 2 for the price of 1. And so it's a lot of fun to watch.
Well, the Bentley in the books was really part of characterizing Hubble, who is a banker. He's successful. He's clearly got money. He's got a beautiful house. So when I was writing it, I was thinking, all right, what car would he have? And then, of course, this is what authors do all the time. You put in the car that you would like to have. And I think that, in my mind at the time that I was writing the book, the Bentley T2 in forest green is the most beautiful sedan ever built. And so because I could just write it down in the book, that's the car I gave him.
There's a bit of contrast with Margrave and the Bentley. A piece of luxury like this doesn't really fit Reacher and his simplicity and small town Margrave feel. And I think it adds to the mystery of who Reacher is and what he brings to this town. It kind of represents just how far he's willing to go to solve his case, and the fact that he starts out with nothing and ends up in a Bentley is, I think, a lot of fun.
Can I ask you one question?
Okay.
Why are 2 of my windows tinted?
What episodic television can do for you is you can get a lot more of the content into it simply because you got that much more time. But also, and I think more importantly, you can introduce the light and shade. Because with a short period of time, like a feature film running time, the temptation is always to just pack it in, bang, 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 relentless pace. And of course, pace and incident and excitement is absolutely necessary. But in order to really appreciate it, you want a bit of light and shade. You want to be able to indulge in a few patient, quiet moments. And with a longer form, like episodic television, you do have that luxury.
I think telling the Reacher story in a series format, a long form format where we get 8 episodes of Killing Floor, of one book, is the right way to tell the story. There are dimensions of the book that I think we really enjoy as an audience. There's moments where it's a slow burn, where we're rooting for Reacher to figure out or solve these problems, and sometimes it takes a lot of steps for him to get to the point where all of a sudden there's that big collision and, there's a fight or, sort of an epic climax. But it's that tension, that slow burn in between, that buildup that makes it so interesting.
Oh, speak to me.
Sorry.
The cliche these days is that streaming television is novelistic, and it absolutely is, simply because of the time you've got. And the investment on the part of the viewer. They get into it, not expecting a 1-hour sugar high. They get into it with the same kind of anticipation and enjoyment that they're going to get if they read a novel. It's long, it is complicated, it's deep, it's worth getting into because you're going to be taken for this ride, and then I hope the ending will justify that choice at the beginning.